Good news, everybody! This is Phototech coming directly to you through the power of the internet. This is gonna be my Nintendo Bit-toid news roundup here. I'm just gonna simply go through a bunch of tiny little news stories that rolled out through the past week that I felt that weren't worth doing a video because they may have only been a minute long or 2 minute long story. And I'm not going to be IGN. I'm not going to post a video that is a minute and have you sit through a 30-second commercial for a video that is only a minute long that you could basically get all the information from the title before you even enter it. I'm not IGN. I'm not Kotaku. I'm not Polygon. I'm not gonna just clickbait the crap out of you, have you sit through an unskippable ad and just waste your time. And I basically went past a minute just explaining that. But the first bit of information was Kimishima saying that the Nintendo NX will not be sold at a loss. Typically, this is normal for Nintendo. This is no big deal. Nintendo has typically always sold the vast majority of their systems just above cost or with a nice little buffer on top of it. There's two occasions I know of off the top of my head that Nintendo has sold a system at a loss, other than the Virtual Boy, which is just a special occasion in itself. I'm a proud owner. I'm a proud owner of a Virtual Boy, but that was a special occasion in itself. But anyways, sorry, I hit my stand. But anyways, the two occasions were the Nintendo GameCube and the Nintendo Wii U. The Nintendo GameCube was sold at a loss because Yamanashi came to the conclusion that if Nintendo wanted to get more games into the hands of people, the price point of the system would be a limiting factor of who can get into owning the system, who could buy the games, and who can enjoy the games. So he decided to lower the price of the GameCube from I think $150 to $99, which I simply love that little action he did there. It's really cool. It's nice. The other system was the Nintendo Wii U. And the reason for that is because it's just not selling that well, and kind of like the Virtual Boy situation. So that is my little piece there on the Nintendo NX won't be sold at a loss. On to news story number 2. Now, the second news story is that Zelda Wii U, Zelda NX was changed on the press site from March 2017 to March 2016 release date. Now, the vast majority of people have jumped off the cliff on that thought and have come to the conclusion and it's being delayed. Now, this could be a possibility, but people have not considered the possibility, or most people have not considered the possibility in the gaming journalism scene, which sadly is kind of sad, that Nintendo may actually be splitting the release dates of the two versions. Nintendo may have actually decided, hey, we are going to pull the Nintendo Wii U version earlier and leave the NX version later. Now, this is actually a possibility. Nintendo kind of did this with Twilight Princess in a odd twist, made the GameCube version later than the Wii version, but uh, it is quite possible that Nintendo saw the outrage of people, and interestingly enough, the period just before this story, this little bit point that Nintendo is changed it from March 2017 to 2017 itself. Many people for the week before that and the week and a half, basically were kind of pissed off that Zelda Wii U and Zelda NX got pushed way back into March, and it is very much possible, as I said, that Nintendo decided to split the 2 points because they realized they pissed off a bunch of people and decided that they may want to take the Wii U version and move it forward, or not so wise, pull it backwards like they did with the Twilight Princess version. But the Twilight Princess version, Twilight Princess GameCube version was put after the Wii version, and that was kind of odd. And as, but it's a business practice that Nintendo wanted to basically push more Wii's that way, and may have been counting on people being impatient and wanting to play Twilight Princess sooner. But my hopes is that Nintendo saw the outrage and decided we're gonna take the Wii U version of Zelda Wii U NX. Yeah, there's no subtitle, and take it and put it in February or even January. So if they pulled it forward into January and February and kept it in March, the news press site would technically be incorrect as for the March 2017 release date. And that is one possibility. They are splitting the two up. The second possibility is that they are indeed either moving both versions forward or both versions back. Seeing as the NX is projected to be, according to Nintendo, March release, Nintendo probably wouldn't release the NX version earlier than the system, but that has happened in the past. There has been several times when video game companies have released games for systems the week before or even 2 weeks before the system is released. It's happened on the PlayStation 2. I believe it also happened on the PlayStation with Ridge Racer, and it's actually happened a few times on a lot of PlayStation systems. Not as common on Nintendo systems. Usually Nintendo systems launch with 3 to 6 games, and that is the typical area in which a system launches with. On to story 3 is that the Nintendo Wii U has managed to creep up to the 12.8 million units sold mark. Also, the Nintendo 3DS is up to the 56 million units mark. Put this into perspective, the PlayStation 4, last time I checked, was somewhere around 36 million. It's probably like 38 million now, and the Xbox One was at 19 and may have crept up to 20 to 21 million. That was way back in January. The 36 and the 19 was back in January. The PlayStation is roughly gaining a million every month or so. 1 million to 2 million a month. So, and that is the end of the third. Well, that's towards the end of the third one. I really can't add anything to the sales. The Nintendo Wii U is still selling very well in Japan. So is the Nintendo 3DS and the new Nintendo 3DS, which will be covered in a later news story in this video. And as for the Xbox One, it's let's bring this into perspective. At the rate of the Wii U selling and the Xbox One selling, the Wii U would eventually, projected on its sales chart, would eventually eclipse the Xbox One. The question is, whether it's going to maintain that growth sales rate. And in the Japanese sales chart, which I'll cover later in the video, it most definitely looks like it's going to eclipse the Xbox One in sales eventually. And that's the end of that one. And the fourth little story was there was actually an interview with the GameStop COO Paul Raines, and he said that the Wii U was disappointing to everyone. And on every article I basically saw, and the very first thing I thought was that was basically the kettle calling the pot black situation. GameStop saying something is disappointing? It's wow. Oh my goodness. Not to mention, they are disappointing. So, it's. Well, I guess GameStop knows a thing or two about what is disappointing. Okay. Alright. Now, on to the fifth little story is that Nintendo, in the week of April 25th to May 1st, in Japan, has managed to sell over 35,000 units of hardware. This is really cool. In the top spots, in the order of sales, is the Sony PlayStation 4 at number 1 with 28,000. The Nintendo 3DS LL with 20,000. The PlayStation Vita at 20,000, which is in the 20,000 range. The Nintendo 3DS LL is 20,257 units. The PlayStation Vita is 20,168 units sold. Now, pay attention, that is the LL unit of the Nintendo 3DS. They also have the Nintendo, that's the new Nintendo. I'm just completely crash burned that one. But basically, Nintendo takes up most of the top spots. The PlayStation 4 is at 28,578 units. The new Nintendo 3DS LL, is at 20,257 units sold for that period. And up at that period. And then I think I just completely messed this one up. Well, there's the 20,257, the 20,160. The Nintendo Wii U is at 10,220. And that is for the week. Sorry, the article was like badly had some issues in clarifying totals on some things, but basically the PlayStation 4 sold 28,000 units, 578. The new Nintendo 3DS LL is 20,257 units sold for that period. The PlayStation Vita was sold 20,160 units. The Nintendo Wii U sold around 10,000 units, 10,020 to be exact. The new Nintendo 3DS, the regular one, sold 3,997 units. The Sony PlayStation sold 1,560 units. The Nintendo 3DS sold 1,091 units. The Nintendo 3DS sold 1,091 units. The Nintendo 3DS LL sold 2,000. The Nintendo 3DS LL sold 233 units, and the Microsoft Xbox only sold 100 units. I am going to go and put these numbers in the description box below, as well as the general information, just in case you didn't understand what I was saying, because for whatever reason, my brain completely farted out because there's so many Nintendo 3DS devices on this list. It's not funny. And the fact that Japan has a different designation system than the United States as far as the XL and the smaller models. And I keep forgetting which one is which. I can't remember whether the LL is referring to the small model or the large model, but I think it's referring to the small model. Uh, if you have not noticed behind me, I have went and stuck my Futurama, my DVD box sets right behind me, just to change something up. This is Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3, and Volume 4, as well as Bender's Big Score. Uh, as a quick little thing here, I personally believe the Futurama franchise should probably get some more love. It is a wonderful science fiction series. I classify it as a science fiction series because a science well, it's, you know what, Futurama is a blend of science fiction and science fantasy concepts, but it presents itself as a science fiction franchise, and it's just that simple. What I can say is that the difference between science fiction and science fantasy is the science fiction is plausible, and the extraordinary is the mundane. To characters in the universe, the extraordinary is just everyday life, and everything is fairly plausible. In science fantasy, it could completely take leaps and bounds in concept with little to no explanation of it, and it's not even plausible. A good example of science fiction versus science fantasy is Star Wars is typically a science fantasy franchise. Star Trek is a science fiction franchise. Uh, except for when George Lucas back in the prequel trilogy tried to make it more science fictiony, and that was part of the problem with Star Wars Episode 1, 2, and 3, is that the Metachlorians explanation. I personally recommend watching Futurama, and I might even do a general video series of me talking about each episode or each season in the future. But I'm going to try to stick towards more of the video game stuff. I'm going to only sprinkle in some TV shows and movies on dead days when I happen to have energy and there's nothing else to talk about in video gaming. I also am considering doing some video game reviews, but I tried to set up my rig one day and I basically found that it's just really awkward setting it up. I do not have a capture card, so if I really wanted to show you gameplay, I basically have to stick a camera in front of a TV and record it, and I have to line the camera up just right that the glare doesn't come off the TV and screw up the image. Not to mention my TV in my room is tiny, and I have to put the camera really close to the TV just so it doesn't look ridiculous. But yeah. Thank you very much for checking out my video. Please do all your basic things down below, like comments, voting, sharing, and adding to playlists. Every action helps out. Thank you very much for watching. Have a wonderful day.